Welcome to Women of a Certain Stage, the podcast redefining how we think about menopause. I'm your host, Lauren Churin, a passionate advocate for breaking the stigma and empowering individuals to navigate this transformational stage of life with confidence and clarity. Here, we're diving into a new era of menopause support, featuring expert advice, real-life stories, and actionable insights. Whether you're curious about building your personal menopause plan or you're looking to make an impact, you're in the right place. Let's embrace the change together. Welcome. It is such a pleasure and honour to be able to have some time with you, apart from anything else, but also to be able to just have the conversation to find out more about what drew you to this path of becoming a menopause coach in the first place.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast, Lauren. It's really exciting for me. My journey to menopause coaching started about 3 years ago. You'll probably pick up the accent that I've spent a bit of time in Australia. So I was there for 22 years, had an amazing career working in the not-for-profit sector for an organisation that supported women facing disadvantage into work. So for a good 10 years, I was leading teams working with thousands of women every year, and we would help them find work and then develop really meaningful long-term careers. So it was very much about financial sustainability, creating purpose in your work and a career that you could love. And I was about to step into the CEO role, and I've been working a long time. I'd built myself up. I was absolutely ready for this opportunity. Then about 6 months before I went to take on the role, I started having some real doubts about my capabilities. Lots of feelings of anxiety. My mood was up and down. I was easily frustrated. I was forgetting things, deadlines. I couldn't perform as well as I had, and things that I'd really been doing for the last 10 years all of a sudden felt really difficult. And I had this massive crisis of confidence stepping into this high level role, and I started to believe that I couldn't do it. I, I honestly thought I was having a bit of a breakdown. I thought I was completely burned out, and that was stressing me, and that was starting to impact my sleep as well. So I was really losing energy fast. And I remember going out for a glass of wine with a girlfriend, as you do, and having a chat to her about it. And she said, "Have you considered that this might be menopause?" And I realized, bizarrely, that I hadn't put two and two together. I hadn't looked at my symptoms and thought, yeah, maybe this is menopause. So I went away and did a lot of research. And then sure enough, a lot of what I was feeling were typical symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. And then that took me on this journey, not only to find out more about it for myself and get the help I needed, but also with our organisation. Because I thought, here we are, an organisation of 40 women, helping thousands of women a year, and we weren't talking about perimenopause or menopause, and certainly not in the workplace. So I remember being in the leadership team meeting, and, at the end of the agenda, where they have any other business, I put menopause on the agenda and said, let's have a
Yeah.
conversation about it. And shared my journey, shared some of my challenges, was interested to know if my colleagues had noticed a difference in me. And then when I'd finished, we went around the table, and everyone in that leadership team had an experience of perimenopause or menopause, or an experience with someone in their lives that was going through it. So we started to talk about it with the team, with the women that we were supporting. We put menstrual policies in place and started talking about what we could do to support women. My amazing boss at the time gave me an incredible book, Wise Women Power to Read, and that really reframed menopause for me. And I believed that there was such a brilliant life waiting for us at the other side. It just felt like a natural progression, having worked with women for 20 years to build up these amazing careers. And certainly when I left, that women were choosing to leave the workforce as a result of their symptoms and the lack of support, I thought, no, this is absolutely the next step for me. So I left Australia, came to the UK to study with you, and women of a certain stage. And yeah, turned 50 and decided to change my life completely, going through menopause, and become a menopause coach so that other women could
Amazing.
get access, to the right information and the support that they need.
Amazing, amazing. So tell me a little bit about the work you were doing in Australia. You're saying you were a team of 40 women helping other women. And what type of work were you doing back then?
So I was working for an organization that supported women facing disadvantage to get work and to keep work and really thrive in work. And what I realize is that disadvantage can happen to any woman at any time. It does not discriminate. We were working with women from a migrant and refugee background, women who had raised families and maybe had a relationship breakdown, and now later in life were needing to find work, sometimes for the first time, had big career gaps. We were working with women who were exiting prison, who had been through domestic violence situations, and now had to create some employment stability for themselves so that they could create choice and look after their families. And we started with an outfitting service about 15 years ago, supporting women to ready for interview. So they would come to us, we would kit them out with clothing, we'd have some conversations about their interview, really build up their confidence, make sure they looked and felt the part. And that small service around the wardrobe and outfitting ready for interview turned into a much bigger program. So we had mentors all around the country that would work one-on-one with women, not just to find work, but also to sustain work. Talk them through, if they haven't been in a workplace for 20 years, it would be a very different environment from the one that they were in. So we'd help them navigate that. We would help them with their resume. We do interview practice. We had workshops about building confidence, life skills, and really everything to do with thriving in work.
That's amazing. So you've already been working in the space of helping support women in areas where, they haven't had that opportunity
Mhm.
and helping them build up their confidence. And I mean, I can already, just listening to you, see so many overlaps with what we do as a menopause coach. So you mentioned that you did the 1 day session with me and then you came on to the coach program. Can you tell me a little bit more about your thinking on that journey and what it was about becoming a menopause coach that attracted you to come and train with us?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of workplace training over the years in my role and some unofficial coaching with my team, just sort of professional development coaching. So I was really interested in taking that further and combining working with organizations and also working with individuals one-on-one because I could really see the overlap with that. So when I went to do some research, obviously your name popped up a lot, and I thought, I've just moved halfway across the world to learn this because I do believe the UK, the gap is shortening all the time, but the UK are far advanced than Australia in the trainings, their awareness, the conversations, the supports for workplace and sort of the legislation that hopefully is going to be coming in. So I thought I actually want to train with the best, and that's why I chose women of a certain stage. I loved the fact that it was in a group setting and it was live. I didn't want to do anything that was self-paced because I need the connection. And I have to say that the cohort that I was in March last year have just stayed really close. We've got the WhatsApp group. We're in communication all the time. We catch up for regular Zooms. And I think that's probably the thing that stands out for me in terms of what I really took away, apart from all the information, was just having that support network of other menopause coaches going through the same process, setting up their businesses. We have learned so much from each other, and it's just an incredible amount of support.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I love about each cohort's got its own unique personality, and we have people from all over the world, which just makes it incredibly valuable because we're getting to see menopause from different aspects. We've got people from all sorts of different walks of life. And I think one of the things that you made the point about doing a program that's live, we're actually meeting together, seeing each other every week, and you don't get that same camaraderie, that same collaboration, that same opportunity to create the community with people when you're just doing a prepared downloaded course. And I think that's one of the
Mm.
things that when I did my own coach training, every single coach diploma I did, every single one of them had a live component to it. And we always had access to really great experts. And I wanted to emulate that when I was putting the menopause coach program together. So thinking about the menopause coach program and the community aspect and the way it was structured, what were the kind of key takeaways from the actual diploma itself?
Particularly around the structure. I mean, I love the fact that we were actually coached as part of it. So, as someone who was learning to be a coach, you took us through that process so we could experience it as a client. that was incredibly powerful. And I remember having so many aha moments, one in particular around the decluttering that was very emotional for me, and a lot came up. And I love the fact that we would spend the first half around the education piece and being coached, and then we would unpack it and have those questions. So, and the opportunity for you to answer the questions that we had. And I felt that it just really took the learning deeper for me because I'd experienced it firsthand. But one of the things that really stood out for me is I've been learning a lot about reframing menopause and that whole idea that it is not the end of a woman's life. It's really just the beginning of a whole other life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember there was a session early on, and his name's escaped me now, but he talked about elephants and killer whales.
From.
Do you remember Dr. Vikram? And
Yeah.
he told this story about elephants and killer whales going through essentially a version of menopause and coming at the end and taking on this new role within their communities. They had the wisdom, they had the knowledge, they had the ancient ways that they were passing down around the trails to go and find food, or, where the schools of fish hung out. And that was at the very beginning of the course. And that just flipped something for me around the reframe that, the earlier we get on to looking after ourselves through menopause, the better we can get through that journey, particularly when it comes to physical body. I mean, having strong bones, looking after your cardiovascular system, making sure that you're building in cardio, weight, and flexibility exercise into your training. I'm just like, we can actually do this. We can build strong bodies and strong minds. We can go through the journey. It is a transition. It's a natural biological process. And we can bounce out the other end of it and have these amazing lives. And
Amazing.
again, that was very powerful for me too.
Mm.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
think, one of the other things I'm very insistent about, as you know, is making sure not only do I take you through the menopause plan, the actual 7-week coaching program, but you take each other through it, and then you take 2 practice clients through it. What was that process of finding practice clients like, and then taking them on that journey?
Very easy, actually. I had a line of people wanting to be coached in menopause coaching. I have a lot of friends in their late 40s and 50s. And when I started opening up the conversations around what I was doing to become a coach, well, everyone wanted to have a conversation with me about it, including the men, actually, their
Yeah.
partners, which was really eye-opening. I wasn't sure how those conversations were going to go, but they were literally coming up and instigating those. So when I said I had to find 2 practice clients, I literally had about 6, 7 women put their hand up. That was powerful. I chose to do one online and I did
Mhm.
one face to face. So it was
Mm.
interesting to see the different methods of delivery. But it went deep. I loved the fact that each module had a purpose, had a topic. Quite often we would mix those up a little bit depending on what was happening with the clients, but it felt really holistic. And I had one of my practice clients when we were looking at the movement and nutrition space. She said, "Oh, look, I don't really need any help with that because I do yoga, I go running, I eat well." She was all over it. And I said, "Look, let's just go through it for the purpose of practicing. You might get something from it, but I certainly will." And it was amazing what came out for her, actually. It moved more into the movement, into the mindset, and her breathing came up as a challenge. So for somebody who was on top of their game in terms of exercise and health and fitness and nutrition, some interesting things came out for her. So I think that just goes to show that even though there might be a topic, but that doesn't feel particularly relevant for a client, it's always going to bring new things up for them.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I really love about the menopause plan is that wherever somebody is, whatever is going on in someone's life, however good they are with their mindset and hydration, nutrition and movement, everything else, is always another level. It's always another level. And I always find it fascinating when I'm working with people and coaching them through whatever transitions they're going through. But, when menopause is in the background of it, people say, well, I don't need to talk about my fitness because I go to the gym 3 times a week, or I run 4 times a week, or I go to yoga and Pilates, or whatever it is. And I think people don't understand that we still need to adapt and grow and morph. You would never hear an Olympic athlete going, well, I won my gold medal. I don't need to train anymore. I don't need to do
Mhm.
anything any
Yeah.
differently, because there's always that extra level. And those athletes don't get to that next level without a coach or several
Mhm.
coaches and without a plan. And that's why, when you take your practice clients and you take your clients post the diploma through it, it's just magical. I always find that I get tingles like when I get to the end and get the feedback from clients, and it's kind of like they're like really surprised about something, and it just, I don't know, it always, I can remember every single client I've ever coached, because there's always that magical moment where they've gone, like you said earlier, they've had that aha moment or they've had that breakthrough and they've just made that transition in the background to doing something. And it could be something really teeny tiny. It doesn't always have to be something big that makes, so it's like, what's the expression I use? That small hinges swing big doors. So
Love that.
sometimes the littlest things that make the biggest changes, right? So you completed the diploma and you took your practice clients through it. So one in person, one online. Which did you prefer, or do you not really have a preference in terms of which way?
Really enjoyed the face to face, actually, sitting in a room and feeling someone's energy. And I think that really gave them permission to open up. Those in person sessions felt more powerful, and we did dig a bit deeper with those than the online. So, yeah, that I think when you're going to some of those places that maybe women haven't visited for a long time or even necessarily before, being in the same room together is really powerful. That really works. But I just want to say that with every client, I've probably worked with maybe 20 clients since the diploma. I'm still just setting up my business and learning all the time. But the most powerful thing is the water, is the hydration. Oh my God. But we think we drink enough water, but when we actually start to track it, we're like, no, we don't. And just getting women to up their water has made a huge difference to how they sleep, to cognitive function, to how they feel about themselves, to their digestion. And that's the thing that I say, if you're going to do one thing, increase your water intake. It's like the
Yeah.
elixir of life. It's incredible. Yeah.
100%, 100%.
Mm,
And I think, when you think about the fact that our bodies are made up of 60 to 70% water,
mm,
every single part of our body, every single part of our brain, every body system is reliant on being well hydrated in order to work more effectively. And
mm,
we know that our mood and our cognition and our digestion, all of these things are linked to being well hydrated, which is why it's one of the very first things we do in the menopause plan.
mhm.
So I'm super excited to hear that you've worked with 20 clients since you completed the program. And are you finding you're preferring to work one-to-one? Are you thinking about doing groups? Which is your preferred way of working with people?
I've just moved into groups. I've done some workplace training, just an introduction to menopause with mixed groups. I was actually doing one yesterday with a company, they're a tech company. I'd say the majority of their team are between mid 20s to mid 30s. So I thought it was incredibly courageous of them to bring me in to talk about menopause. It was just great. And I love that. I loved opening up the conversation with people who haven't had this conversation before, because
Hmm.
I think that the earlier we get onto this subject, particularly for women going through perimenopause, if they can put some good practices in place, then the transition is going to be a smoother one. So I did really enjoy that. I love the one-on-one work because you can go deep, but I am taking the content from women of a certain stage and developing an 8-week program, because I'd love to start running groups through it, because I think the experience that I had going through the menopause diploma with a group of women, I'd love for other women to have that experience. So my hope is that in the next couple of months, I'll be launching that 8-week online group program to take women through it. But look, I've taken the content. I'm developing a women's wellness workshop locally. I'm doing it with the Hampton Hills Spa. I'm working with the local gym. So I think there's so many ways to deliver this content. But the women's wellness workshop is a bit of a passion piece. So we'll be doing
Yeah.
some yoga. We've got some
Yeah.
organic beauty products coming in. There's a lot of, it's a bit of a pamper day, but still with that theme of menopause running through it.
And are you thinking maybe longer term of doing retreats, or are the local sessions something that you've got your heart set on for right now?
I think retreats are absolutely the dream. I keep having this vision of myself by a pool in a caftan with a whole group of women just doing these amazing things. And I have become a licensed business partner with menopause expert and Meno chef. So I'm very interested in nutrition. I absolutely adore cooking. I love cooking for other people and sitting around a long table just enjoying a meal we've created. So, something indulgent for me, which is my passion piece, is to really combine my love of cooking with nutrition. And I think a beautiful way to do that is either to do some menopause cooking school days or menopause retreat where we cook a beautiful meal in the evening and come together. So yeah, that is
Oh,
absolutely a dream in a hot country by the water. Yes, please.
oh, that sounds absolutely heavenly. Look, Amanda,
Mm,
it's been absolutely amazing chatting with you today. I'm so grateful to have your time. I'm super excited to having this all ready to go out into the big
mhm,
world. Where can
mhm.
people get hold of you and contact you?
I have a website. I'm also on socials. I'm under Amanda Carlisle Coaching, so I'm under my own name for my business and Facebook and LinkedIn as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today. And I look
Thank you,
forward
Lauren.
to catching up in a year's time and seeing where you are.
Yeah, maybe in Australia.
Whoa. Well, interestingly, I'm speaking at Sydney Opera House later this
I
year.
know.
So excited about going back over it. It's
Yes.
been too long. It's been too long.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me on Women of a Certain Stage. I hope today's episode inspired you to think differently about menopause and the incredible opportunities this stage of life brings. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with 3 friends who need to hear this message. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps us reach even more people. You can connect with me on LinkedIn at Lauren Churin or visit our website at womenofacertainstage.com to learn more about menopause coaching, inspiring events, and corporate training. Until next time, let's continue making a difference, one conversation at a time.